This is 7 News High School Red Zone Review Preview.
Hi everybody and welcome aboard as we get ready for week number 3 in the High School Red Zone coming up Friday night on Channel 7 and the CW62. As for week number 2, it'll be remembered as being one of the hottest Fridays of football in our area. Several games were impacted. The South Carolina High School League has a 92-degree rule. You can't kick off a game or have practice if it's 92 or above, so several schools, you probably know, moved their start times back by half an hour. Others stayed on the normal 7:30 time, but it did impact how some games ended and well, perhaps maybe impacted their outcomes too, because teams were out of sync and necessarily didn't overcome that. Nonetheless, a lot of fun happened in week number 2. A couple of significant wins for area teams, both from Spartanburg County. The Vikings of Spartanburg went on the road down to Dutch Fork, team they lost to twice last year, including a heartbreaker at home in the regular season. But you saw the interception by Demario Bookhart and then TJ Johnson connecting with Justin Rice to set up the Will Love field goal. Vikings defense shut down the reigning 5A champs. Spartanburg went on to the 17-6 win over the Silver Foxes, just the 5th Dutch Fork loss since 2016. Pretty amazing. They've had some injuries as Dutch Fork. They had played a nationally ranked team on the road the week before, but nonetheless, Spartanburg gets a great win for its program. Now at Chapman, Panthers were trying to get their first win against Burns since 1966. Rebels had won 11 in a row, and it looked like the beat was going to go on. They jumped up in the first quarter. You saw Armani Weaver on the receiving end of that TD. Trey Segura, good-looking freshman running back, at a 200-yard night. Burns jumped out to a 14-0 lead in the opening quarter, but they did not score again. The Chapman defense stepped up big. Andrew Stevens intercepted by Shaman Black, and the Panthers did enough on offense. Chapman got a stunning victory, 17-14, beating Burns again for the first time since the mid-60s. Now the Panthers try to knock off another 5A team this week when they play Boiling Springs, and we'll have more on that matchup coming up. Meanwhile, Abbeville, going into the night, had won 11 straight games. Number 1 team in 2A visited the runner-up last year in 3A, Powdersville, and Eli Hudgens and the Patriots. Jack Hunsinger on the receiving end of that TD for the early 7-0 advantage. Jaden Pepper, 12-yard touchdown run for a 14-3 lead. And then Pepper again, newcomer as he transferred in from Greenville, another TD. Powdersville built a 20-3 second quarter lead, but what do you know? The Panthers respond with a 35-34 victory in overtime. Chapman's Abbeville's won 12 in a row, and they're now 105-7-1 since the start of the 2015 season. They're number 1 in 2A and the reigning 2A champs. Meanwhile, a marquee matchup. The number 1 team at the time in 4A, Greenville, went on the road to a top 10 5A team. Katie Patterson and TL Hanna. Patterson, the go-to guy. That was 4th and 2 on the opening drive. 28 yards for him, 7-zip Hanna at home. Eli Hollinger to Jalen Bowles, 17-yarder. Hanna had a 14-0 lead late second quarter. Greenville was down 21-3. Zach Pickelsheimer with the TD. Red Raiders cut the Jackets lead 21-10 at the break. Raiders in the second half, Bryson Drummond and Braden Renfro got together on the 14-yard score, but Josh Donald, one of many out of the backfield who would touch the ball aplenty this year for Hanna. Touchdown, part of a 28-17 TL Hanna win. They have won 3 of 4 since 2014 in the series. They get to 2-0 with that win.
Our kids stepped up when they needed to. That's a heck of a football team. Our kids rose to the challenge, and I'm extremely proud of them. We've been training for games like this. We're excited. It's just another step on the ladder.
But another big step as they knock off a ranked team. Now they get set for their rivalry showdown against Westside coming up this week. They will be looking to avenge last year's lopsided loss against the Rams. Well, Greenville has to go back on the road against a 5A team as they go visit Burns coming up Friday night in the High School Red Zone. Now, Hanna's the reigning Region 1 5A champ. They could win it again, but you get an impression in their game with the Hillcrest Rams could decide it. Hillcrest off to a good start, although it's Greer Anthony Lyons with the blocked punt. Brody Runyon recovering on the 1-yard line that set up a Chris Hall touchdown for the Yellow Jackets, who took a 6-0 lead, and they were trying to make it 18 wins in 20 meetings all time against Hillcrest after losing to the Rams last year. However, Hillcrest had too much. Team that put up over 50 points in their opener at Lawrence the week before. getting a burst of offense there, and another decisive victory for Hillcrest, 41-20. They send Greer to an 0-2 start for the second straight time, and Hillcrest out of the gate at 2-0. Riverside and Man doing battle at the home of the Patriots. Scoot Watson looking to get his team off to a second straight 2-0 start. Little razzle dazzle, double reverse, flea flicker. Ethan Anderson, Michael McClellan wide open, gave his team a 14-0 lead in the opening quarter. Then Ty Breeze to Mikey Williams. They return fire to the Riverside Warriors, cut the deficit to 14-7. But Man, ensuing possession, Nasias Morrison takes it in. He's off to a good start, and JL Man gets the victory, their 22nd all-time. It had been a tight series, 22nd all-time against Riverside. It had been a tight series of teams that split their past 8 games going into that contest. Just down the line at Malden, debut game for Andre Cook guiding Malden, and second year for that guy, Matt Reel, at the helm of Boiling Springs. Ryshawn Morgan into the end zone, second quarter, for a 20-0 Boiling Springs lead. Next possession, Lincoln Husky to Grayson Crow. Turns into a big gain. Crow somehow able to step in bounds as he stepped over defenders. That made it 27-0. Then on the next possession for Malden, Jamillion Miller, not quaint to another Miller. Miller Brazil knocked the ball away to Kari Sterling with the scoop and score. And Boiling Springs rolled. They avenged the loss last year and snapped a 3-game skid in the series against Malden. 55-0, the final tough debut for Andre Cook at the helm of the Mavericks. Gaffney and Union County, longtime rivals. Gaffney allowed 44 points the week before against Crest. Had a feeling they'd play better defense last week. Amazing Littlejohn from Riley State in there. Talk about that defense. Drayshawn Mills tackled for loss by Andrew Roop. Nice job. And then Chaz Smith up the middle, weaving through traffic for the touchdown. And Gaffney did come back with a roar after losing their opener, leading the all-time series now 13. You might remember a year ago the team started playing down in Union. Game eventually was stopped and not completed, but Gaffney, a no-doubter in 2023, 63-7, the final score. Dorman Cavaliers, like Gaffney, at their home opener, taking on visiting North Augusta, and the Cavs trying to bounce back after an opening loss against Greenville. TJ Gassaway with a nice run in the second quarter with his team up 14-7, and then David Sorensen capping the Dorman drive, 21-7 lead. Terrell Edwards off the hard hit, scoop and score TD for him, and Dorman moved on to the win, their 4th straight against the Yellow Jackets since 1996. Now, bragging rights on the line in Lawrence County. This series over the past decade has swung each way. Lawrence dominated for a while, but Clinton was trying for a 3rd straight win when they visited the Raiders. And Ty Richardson off to the races. Another big run for him. Set up a touchdown to the next play by Kendarius Copeland. Clinton was up 42-7 in the 3rd quarter. Later on, Chris Boyd coming through with the block, and MJ Henderson taking it in for the Clinton touchdown. Henderson's TD made it 49-7. Clinton rolling on to a victory by that final score. Well, they are a team that had averaged nearly 8 yards per play the week before. Similar numbers. Clinton out of the gate once again at 2-0. And Corey Fountain had to be happy that his team could again win the rivalry.
You know, we had some guys licking their wounds a little bit at halftime. I'm tired, I'm cramping up. But then, you know, they turned it on in the second half, smelt blood in the water, and we got after it. It was a team effort. You know, I'm just proud of all the Red Devils, and go Big Red.
Tough start for Lawrence, giving up 104 points in its first 2 games, losses against Hillcrest and their rivals, the Red Devils. BHP and Westside opened up their respective seasons. Brian Lane, former Burns and Woodruff head coach, had a 3rd stop in our area, now guiding Westside. The Rams could not get in the way of this guy. Marquez Henderson, 197 yards rushing. His teammate, Shaheem Robbs, went for 144, and that was a big story on the night. DeMarco Evans with a TD for Westside, but in the end, Belton Honeypath, which won last year in a tight game, gets another win against Westside. And final score there was 43-28. Henderson last year, 1,230 yards as a sophomore, and off to a good start this season. Down the line in Anderson County, that guy, Mr. 5-star Sammy Brown, the Clemson commit. He'll be a linebacker when he gets to college, and he shows you why. Big hit right there against Wren. But he's also going to be a running back for the rest of the season for Jefferson. Anthony Freight, new head coach at Wren after guiding Hillcrest. Probably wished he was facing somebody else in his debut game. There's Brown into the end zone as visiting Jefferson of Georgia took control and makes it a second straight win against Wren, having beaten them down in the Peach State a year ago. Brown and crew got a win in Piedmont 30-14 last Friday. Daniel trying to get 2-0 home opener for the Lions after a decisive win in the opening week against Greer. And Colton Chapman able to get on in for the score. Extra point was good. Later on, connection to Bruce Brown. And that set up a 17-0 lead. You saw the field goal make it 17-0. Touchdown right there for Jakari Bennett. And Daniel was on its way to a 38-0 or 39-0 victory against Easley. They've won 6 straight in the series. Woodmont and Walhalla, the former Walhalla head coach, Paget Johnson, now the offensive coordinator of Woodmont. Chris Stone, his debut as the head coach of the Walhalla Razorbacks. Early in the second quarter, Landon Robinson taking the handoff, galloped 61 yards for the touchdown for the visitors. It cut Woodmont's lead at the time to 16-13. Later in the second quarter, Woodmont's safety, Walhalla was down 16-15. Tanner Lowry connecting. And Will Austin on the receiving end. Walhalla had a 21-16 lead, but Woodmont comes back. Trey Broughton takes it in from a couple of yards out. And Woodmont off to a 2-0 start for Ty Sutherland, their new head coach. 48-28 winners against Walhalla, their 6th win in 10 meetings in the series. Seneca looking to rev it up on offense again. They scored more than 40 points in their opening game. And Gavin Toma and crew had a nice night once more against Palmetto. Zay Poole becoming his favorite receiver. Toma can also connect with others like Willie Banks. That went for a touchdown and an early 7-0 lead. And then in the second quarter, Toma and Poole get together again, made it 14-0 in favor of the Bobcats, and they were on their way to another win. Over 40 points in their first 2 games, 83 total as they rolled. 40-0, good defensive effort for David Crane's team as well in that win against Palmetto. Fountain Inn was trying to do something what would be a first in program history, mount a winning streak after picking up the second-year program's first win the week before. Tough task, though, at Woodruff, TJ Morris to Corey Scott. Good yards there, then Morris to Scott. 7-0 game early in the second quarter. Morris and Corey Motes later get together on a 50-yard connection, and Woodruff goes 2-0 all time against their neighbors from just over the hill on Highway 418. Team that had played Chapman tough for 3 quarters the week before. Woodruff has itself its first win of the year, and Fountain Inn falls to 1-1. Broome Centurions weren't looking ahead to their big showdown coming up in the high school red zone Friday night against Spartanburg when they took on their county rival Chesney. A little option action, and Jalen McGill, fine sophomore running back, off to the races for the touchdown. That was in the third quarter as Broome began to pull away from the Eagles. Kamaje Brackett Brannon later finding Trajan Suber in the end zone for the touchdown, and a 6th straight win for Broome in the series against Chesney. Broome's 2-0 for the first time since 2017 with that 49-20 win. Christchurch Cavaliers reigning 1A champs. Their home opener, they fell the week before against Gray Collegiate. Early break here, they force a fumble on the punt return by visiting Southside. Shortest road trip of the year for Southside. And then Deshaun Reeder, standout back who had nearly 200 yards in his opening game, sets up the Tucker Hendricks to Jackson Rep touchdown. 7-0 advantage for the Cavaliers, and they cruise, evening the all-time series at 2 apiece, 61-0 for Christchurch against Southside. St. Joe's looking to go 2-0. Second straight road game as Blacksburg had its home opener. Blacksburg had snapped a 17-game skid the week before with a win. Little onside kick early on. Then Joshua Sims rolls out, but defense stepping up for St. Joe's. The interception right there. Braden Johnson, nice run deep into Blacksburg territory. Moments later, he took it in for the score, and St. Joe's makes it a 5-game winning streak in their series with the Wildcats, 57-7. Liberty trying to get off to a 2-0 start. Remember, told you it was a hot night Temperature was slowly coming down. In the white on the road against Blue Ridge and Logan Smith. What a pretty pass to Caden Hendricks for the early score. And then Mason Davis off the handoff, getting into the end zone. Red Devils ran out to a big lead. They were trying for their 20th win all time in 33 meetings against Blue Ridge. Here's Smith with a nifty run on the quarterback keep. And Liberty never looks back. Paul Sutherland getting his second straight win, just like his son Ty at Woodmont. 41-19 for the head coach of Liberty, who's got things turned around. A team that showed improvement last year in his second year. They look like they're going to be a tough out. At least a team that may be able to hang with Abbeville in their 2A region. Berea and Landrum opening their seasons, meeting Drew Chisholm as head coach of Berea, his debut, and that was Brent Bridges, his debut as head coach of Landrum. Into the end zone, Colton Link for the 7-0 advantage. After a big play by Berea, the Cardinals D stopping them on the goal line on 4 downs. Oh, Bridges loving that. As a head coach for the first time in 11 years, he saw Titus Poor with a 15-yarder to Link, and Landrum gets a victory in the debut of Brent Bridges, third in 5 meetings against Berea, 36-7. Western North Carolina, West Henderson and Hendersonville. Rivalry showdown at the home of the Bearcats, who were in the white. Jude Lyda connecting with Diego Castro for the visiting Falcons in that sharp-looking blue, 7-0 advantage. And later on, Cade Young to Truett Manuel for a 14-0 lead. Manuel also showing his stuff on defense, coming up with the interception of Ivy Harper. And 5th win in the past 9 games for West Henderson against Hendersonville as the Falcons romp. They pitched the shutout in the victory, 44-0 against Hendersonville. That was some of the action we had for you on week number 2 in the high school red zone. Now we get ready for week number 3. You've got some big battles at hand. We told you Broome goes down the road to play Spartanburg, a team they haven't beaten since 1985. Got the Battle of the Electric City as Westside plays host to Hannah. A year ago, Westside just won in a rout against the Yellow Jackets, snapping a 5-game skid. Those are a couple of the big games. And Chapman and Boiling Springs suddenly became a big one when the Panthers improved to 2-0 with a home victory over a 5A school in Burns. And Boiling Springs, after playing a very good Hannah team tough in the opening week and losing by, well, inside of 10 points, well, they turned around and went to Malden and got a lopsided win. So here now are a couple of teams that aren't that far apart geographically, even though they're separated by a couple of classifications, and Todd Summers has more to size it up.
What a difference a year makes. Last season, Matt Reel's first leading Bowling Springs, the Bulldogs won just 2 games and scored a total of 104 points all season. Last Friday night alone, the Bulldogs scored more than half that season-long total in a 56-0 win over Malden, a team they lost to 20-7 last year.
Coming out week 0 and scoring the first 2 times we had the football against Hannah just shot our confidence through the roof. We're a lot different offensively than we were last year. We spent a lot of time in the offseason, throwing the football and working up front with our O-linemen, just to give ourselves a chance to be able to be successful.
At Chapman, it's a similar story of week 1 redemption. Last season, Burns blew out the Panthers 54-7. Last Friday night, however, Harry Cabanis and crew stunned the Rebels 17-14, their first win over Burns in more than 50 years.
I try not to get too emotional back and forth because it was such one of those games that if you did, the next possession was just going to totally change your emotions. So I thought our kids did a great job all night as far as just staying even keel.
Tomorrow night, 3A Chapman goes in search of a second straight win over a 5A program in Bowling Springs. But neither team sees classification when it comes to this crosstown rivalry.
I never really compare 3A, 4A, 5A. I just compare what the quality of teams we're playing. Because there's some really good 1A teams, there's some really good 5A teams. And they've got a tradition of winning. And that's what we're trying to get to.
They're very disciplined in what they're doing, and they're not going to get away from what they do. What plays are on offense, how they line up on defense, they're going to use the athletes that they have them, which makes it difficult.
That should be a really good game. One of the many we'll have for you in the high school red zone. Week number 3 upcoming, 11 o'clock Friday on Channel 7, 11:35 on the CW62. By the way, also coming up Friday night in the high school red zone, really good matchup between the reigning 2A state champion Abbeville, which in this decade has won titles in 20 and 22, and a ball club that won back-to-back 1A titles just a couple of years ago, the Sabres of Southside Christian. So Two teams that have combined for 4 titles so far in the 2020s. They will meet in Simpsonville at the home of the Sabres. Southside Christian idle last week. They lost a tough 2-point game to a good Commerce, Georgia team down I-85 in the Peach State in their opening game. Abbeville, that stunning come from behind victory in overtime by a point at Powdersville. That should be some kind of ball game as Abbeville tries to extend the area's longest winning streak to 13 in a row. Well, let's close out this version of the High School Red Zone Review Preview with our plays of the week from week number 2 and play number 5 from the Woodmont win against Walhalla, and Walhalla's Van Moxley with a scoop and a score, 41 yards for the touchdown. Put his team ahead at the half. Woodmont eventually rallied for the victory, but Walhalla, they've got a new head coach. Patrick Johnson did a great job reviving that program. Chris Stone will try to keep it up. If he gets plays like that out of Van Moxley and others, he will do just fine. Play number 4 from Polk County's loss at home against Tuscola, but Lawson Carter loading up for the deep pass, and Keandre Green with a nice catch and the big gain. Green laying out, pulling it down for the Wolverines of Polk for play number 4. Play number 3, man's win against Riverside. Check out Jalen Rice on a kickoff return. Gonna get popped and then somehow able to hang on to it. Looked like he was going to lose it. That could have been disastrous for man after Riverside had just scored to cut a deficit of 7 points. But Jalen Rice able to withstand the hit and keep control of the football. 2 very important things. Play number 2, also from that man win. Fancy stuff here. Scoot Watson maybe drew this up at a family picnic during the summer. Nasias Morrison and Keeson Henderson, the double reverse, the flea flicker to Ethan Anderson, and Michael McClellan could not have been any more wide open. That went for a Patriot score. Whole lot of fun right there. I mean, look how wide open. There wasn't anyone within 10 yards of him on either team as McClellan got by the defense. Razzle dazzle working to perfection for the Patriots at JL Mann for play number 2. And play number 1 from the Boiling Springs rout at Malden after they had taken a 27-0 lead. Bulldogs coming up with a huge defensive play. Darren Crook with a sack of, Miller Brazil sacked, and Dakari Sterling scooping up, taking it in. Hard hit applied right there, and the scoop and score for Boiling Springs for the touchdown, and that decisive win against Malden for play number 1. That's the show for this week. We'll see you each and every Thursday night right here on WSPA.com. And again, getting ready for week 3 in the High School Red Zone. We'll see you Friday at 11 o'clock on Channel 7 and at 11:35 on the CW62.